Welcome to the podcast from HeadHunters Northwest. HeadHunters Northwest, specialized recruiting, specialized approach, where we take you behind the scenes into our customers' businesses. For over 20 years, HeadHunters Northwest has served the global defense, small arms, and shooting sectors worldwide. Listen in as we discuss the inner workings of our USA and international customers. HeadHunters Northwest, finding you the best heads for business.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another podcast of HeadHunters Northwest. I am so excited. I never in my wildest dreams many years ago when I met Nate ever thought I would have a podcast, let alone have the privilege of having him on the podcast. So welcome, Nate Pun. He's with Houlihan Lokey. He is the Global Managing Director, and your specialty is consumer products, outdoor, tactical, and I'm sure there's something else because you cover a lot of things in there.
I do, Shaylene. It's fantastic to be here. Thank you very much for having you. We've known each other for a long time, and honored to be on your program. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the reason I asked Nate to be on the program is because Nate is an investment banker, and I think that a lot of our industry would benefit from learning more about what investment banking is about and what you guys do. You help with M&A transactions, which I'm fingers crossed that we're going to see a whole lot of that in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm really excited to hear a little bit about what you think. I've been watching your news press releases and your reports, so I have a little idea of what your thoughts are on that. But let's start with telling the audience who your customers are and what you guys do on a daily basis, because it's really pretty mystical to most people.
Sure. No, you're absolutely right. I get questions all the time, including ones from my mother as an investment banker. Can I help you pick the right stock? Can I do somebody's taxes? Can I break a 20 into, 2 5s and a 10? Yes, there's a lot of mystique about investment banking, but the simple way I like to describe it is we're really no different. Obviously, there's some very major differences, but really no different than a real estate agent. I just happen to advise people on buying and selling businesses versus someone buying and selling a house. And that's really how you should think about it is when you need help to go find the right house, when you need help to go find that right business that you want to acquire, whether you're a professional investor or someone who's looking to get into the industry, or you've worked really hard, you put 20, 30 years in terms of building your business and you need expertise in terms of representing that business, that's where we come in. And to your point, yes, Shaylene, my title as global head of the outdoor and tactical banking team is quite a mouthful. So I cover everything from core outdoor goods, from skis to bikes to tents to fishing rods to more in the outdoor and shooting world, guns, ammunition. And then we even like to think of the soldier as an extreme camper and think of all that soldier equipment really as a sector that we do. We've been focused on that for 25 years and advised on more than 200 transactions in that space. So been pleased to work with a lot of good people.
Yeah, and that is a big category, but it's not just you. You have a team.
I do.
And I've met a couple of them, 3 or 4 of them, great people, very smart and cute as a whip because, of course, they're much younger than me, most of them.
Me too.
I love talking to them at these cocktail parties and things. They make me giggle because they're just fun because they're interesting. They're interested in learning about everything. They're like sponges.
Yeah, no, I'm fantastic. As they say, it does take a village, and I'm fortunate. I have a village around the world. So we here at Houlihan, we've got 36 offices around the world. I have teammates as part of this whole outdoor and tactical team in 5 different countries in terms of what they are. And yes, some of them are straight out of college. Some of them worked with me for 10, 15 years, and all of them are highly vested in this space and love what they do. We're fortunate. I like to say I've got the best job of any banker in the world because I'm dealing with things that I have in my closet, in my garage, rifles, pistols, skis, bikes, tents, all the fun stuff.
Yeah. And this is your area of interest. I know that I heard on a podcast you did recently that you're really into bicycling. And
Yes.
So this was a focus for you. You actually kind of made this niche. This wasn't something that investment bankers technically had. You kind of created this niche, right?
No, you're absolutely right. My path to being an investment banker is an odd one, and I'll tell you a very funny story. So it was between my junior and senior year in college. I was a lifeguard, so you could see I had high career aspirations. And my best friend had graduated a year ahead of me and was working for an investment bank. And I'll never forget. He called me up and said, "Nate, I've been working for 24 hours straight, working on this deal. It's been really amazing." And I remember he hung up the phone and I thought, God, I don't ever want to be an investment banker. That sounds like a horrible job. And here I am 25 years later in the career, and it's been fantastic. We've gotten to work with some amazing people out there. And this is where the firearms industry in particular has been fantastic. I came from that world. I was a competitive skeet shooter. I also served 10 years in the military. So I like to say I speak the language a little bit, and I really love the community. It's been a fantastic one.
I think that's a little understated, having freshly read your bio on the website. 10 years in the military is an understatement.
I did get to work with a number of heroes. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
Sear, there's a couple other things in there. So when you are at, say, AUSA or, I know that the Navy doesn't really technically show up at that, but just in case you came to that, or Modern Day Marine, or probably better Soft Week, then you're rubbing elbows with the people who you really actually understand what they've done and gone through.
Yes. Yeah. So the truth is I was a counterterrorism officer. I came from the intelligence community, and I worked in special operations, and I worked with a number of heroes. I am not one of those. I'm full of tears if I stub my toe or a paper cut. But I did work with some amazing people across the teams, across the groups, and across the Marines. It was fantastic to work with those individuals. Really amazing.
Well, I think it really does set you apart in what people envision as investment banking or M&A activity, the people who do these mystical transactions. And you really have been so approachable and very kind to me whenever I've run into you, and your team is equally as kind. So I think it does set you apart. And I know that you've done quite a lot of M&A work in the tactical market and hopefully the MilGov and law enforcement markets. Let's keep shoving that. I think my personal opinion is that'll be a good market for us in 25 because we need to rebuild our military. So I do hope we pull some of that commercial business up with some of that.
Well, I think you hit on it. So one, for me, it is great to be part of that community and help people achieve their dreams in that community. And two, obviously, I'm a big believer in our national defense and what we're doing. So the ability to really help those businesses and help us stay protected and help protect other people around the world is a real honor. And to your point, now with the election behind us, I think one of the things that Trump stands for certainly is gun rights and certainly strong defense. And I think that's going to continue to help that tactical industry in terms of further support, further growth, and then hopefully further accomplishment of all of our goals in terms of what we're looking to do.
Yeah. And that is, as you appropriately mentioned earlier, that covers a lot more than just small arms. There's tents, amazing structures, whole cities that these companies put up. There's all kinds of products that all you have to do is walk through one of those trade shows and go, wow, this isn't just about tanks and helicopters. This is about, there's everything you can imagine. And these soldiers need all of that all over the world. It's just products. They're so innovative.
You're absolutely right. And this is where this matches up ideally with also my focus on the outdoor market, because I'm going to be a little tongue in cheek. But it really is extreme camping at the end of the day. You are camping in the most severest form. I happen to do that thanks to SEER School. That was pretty extreme camping, but nonetheless, you're talking about sleeping bags, you're talking about tents, you're talking about heating, food, lighting, communications, body armor, load carriage, and then everything down from socks, shoes, and gloves. There's a lot to do there, and there's a lot of room for some great companies, and there are some terrific companies out there. What individuals have created across the tactical markets and the outdoor markets to support our law enforcement, support our war fighters is really, really amazing. I'm never not surprised by what the ingenuity is across the industry and the good people trying to do good things.
Well, I love that about this industry. There's never a day that's repeated. because you always have something to learn. There's always something that someone has made better, innovated, or created. It is really never boring.
No, it is. And this is where I'll be selfish. I love this stuff. This is the whole reason why I got into this, because to your point, I kind of made up this career. So I started as an investment banker in a broad consumer banking practice way back in the early 2000s. And there I was representing people that made frozen peas and baby toys and women's apparel. And I'll be candid, I didn't care about any of it. I wanted to do things that I cared about: bikes, skis, guns, fishing rods. And so I quit in 2005 to start my own investment bank to focus on this sector, which was unheard of at that time. We built that up over 5 years. Me and a partner of mine made us number one in the world in what we did. We ultimately sold that investment bank to another investment bank. And long story short, here I am at Houlihan, still having a great time with all the people in the space.
Well, it is a great group of people because they, by and large, I find the industry to be quite approachable, and they genuinely invest in each other, even competitors, which is really surprising a lot of times to people, because they really do invest in the human part. They want to know how your family is, how your kids are. And there's often times that they'll be writing letters to help someone else's kid get into the college they want, letters of recommendations, internships, and things like that. It is really special.
Oh, I agree. I think people end up in that industry, one, because they are passionate about the product, whatever their product is, but they're really passionate about the consumer and helping that consumer, succeed in that journey, whether that happens to be as a warfighter overseas, whether it happens to be down the street in some state park. I know when I was deployed, I received a huge outpouring of gear, more gear than I could have ever used, and half of it wasn't even applicable, but I had more friends across the industry send me more things. And it was just so touching and so heartfelt, seeing people wanting to do the best by me so that I could do the best by this country and the rest of my teammates out there.
Yeah, well, we need more of that. And luckily, I think United States is going to head that way. I hope so. So let's talk about who your customers are, because I want people to understand, what you do. When you talk about M&A work, are you going out and you're meeting companies that are for sale? Are you meeting people who want to buy companies? Are you helping companies borrow and get money when they have times in growth? Help us understand what parts of that looks like.
Sure. Yeah. So when people say M&A, they mean mergers and acquisitions. So that's just a shortcut for that. And that really is kind of a catch-all phrase for exactly what you're saying. That's everything from sell-side advisory, sell-side representation, meaning I'm going to give you advice and help you sell your business, or buy-side representation, meaning I'm going to help you buy somebody else's business. And then there's the capital component there. How does a business continue to grow? I need investment from an investor. I need funds from a bank to be able to grow, and we provide that. And to your point, because we are so industry focused, we know the ecosystem, we live the ecosystem, and we believe that provides a better skill set and a better advice, because we understand their products as a user. We understand their products in terms of where they stand in the industry. And that means we can align better and better represent, whether that's valuation terms, access to different markets, different investors around the world, all those different roles from buy side to sell side to capital raising to help them succeed. So yes, there's a lot of different avenues that we can help. And what we do is we're basically working with two different sets of people. There are those founders, those individuals who created a company, who want to ultimately get rewarded for their hard work, or want to add on another company to that to continue to build that, or professional investors, either large strategics like a BAE or a Cadre Holdings that want to add to their portfolio, or people have heard of private equity investors, professional investors that look to invest into businesses to help them grow and then help to sell them later down the years to generate a return. So it's those groups of investors that we do a lot of work with, and we see that very much on a global basis. Right now, we have deals on 5 different continents at the moment, if I'm catching all of our deals correctly. And that's where we see the world really global, both in terms of those people representing companies and those people looking to invest in companies.
So the people should understand that you're not just a US based. You so aptly pointed out that you have all these global offices, But I think it's important for people to realize that there are investors who are looking to purchase United States companies. And there are people who want in the United States who want to expand their holdings, maybe to purchase companies in Europe or any continent and any job. So, I mean, it's wide open. Don't think it's too small that you only have to say you're looking for something in one continent, because you guys cover it all.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Many investment bankers are very regionalized, particularly very U.S. focused, or some are even very much figure based on terms of an actual, state or city. I work in the tri-state area, things like that. We see it very differently. Our brands and the customers in the outdoor and tactical industries are very much global in terms of those people that consume. And we believe they need to have access to investors and buyers around the globe. So to your point, we were just joking about my travel schedule. I just spent this last month 1 week in London, another one in Milan, 2 weeks in Australia. I now head to South Africa next, and then I'm back off to London, then back here in the United States. And that's all because of there's opportunities in those countries, as well as investors and buyers in those countries. And we believe that people deserve to have access around the world because our products and our consumers are global in terms of what they do.
Yes, right. Well, we are global. I mean, anyone who says we're not, that's crazy.
I agree. We're very much an integrated world in terms of where we are, and just look at your kitchen or look at your closet in terms of Italian fashion or French cheese or whatever that is. We are a global world now. Obviously, there's some strong views from the incoming administration about how to handle that, but I'll leave that for something different. But in terms of what we think about in terms of our outdoor products and those tactical products, firearms, ammunition, soldier gear, outdoor products in terms of climbing gear, jackets, boots, tents. Those activities take place all around the world.
That's right. That's exactly right. Now, how does someone end up saying, we know we need to talk to someone, we're thinking about selling our company, or we're thinking about investing in a company, we've got some extra cash laying around, and here's what we want to do. Do they reach out to your office, and then your office can decide who's best suited to talk with them? Is that how that works?
It works by multiple ways. So we often have a number of different relationships and build up those relationships, and that all depends on timing. I'll pretend you're an investor at one point. I've known you for years, and then out of the blue, you call me up. Hey, Nate, I'm ready to do X, Y, and Z. Or I've known you for years, and you started a company. You say, hey, Nate, we've been doing this for 20 years, and I want to get rewarded. So we're big in terms of developing those relationships because ultimately, at the end of the day, this is a really important function, and you got to have trust of the person that you're working with. And we believe trust is paramount, because without trust, you don't have any other relationship out there. So trying to understand and know somebody for a long time is important. That said, we do receive phone calls. People come to our website, email me directly off of that, or find somebody at Houlihan, and Houlihan is very good about having those 36 offices around the world. Oh, the guy you need to talk to about firearms and ammunition or tactical goods or the outdoor products is Nate, and I get introduced, and that can work well too. So many different ways for people to track me down.
That's great. So I'm sure our audience would love to hear if you think, and I didn't ask you this off camera, so I'm hoping I'm not putting you on the spot.
Not at all.
But is there a deal that comes to mind, or some circumstance that you can share with us that wouldn't, expose anyone or be negative? But there's got to be every day you pick up the phone and say, I can't believe I just heard this. I can't believe this deal. This is how it came together. This is the craziest deal that I have ever been exposed to. I mean, I'm sure that there's got to be some crazy stuff you guys hear.
Well, I think there's some crazy stuff, and we've done some crazy deals too. I guess the craziest one that jumps to the top of my mind is that this is decades ago, but the founder of Chaco, which is a outdoor sandal company, desperately was trying to call me over Thanksgiving. And I kept going, God, why is this guy trying to call me? I'm just trying to have time with my family. Well, lo and behold, the poor individual, the founder, had gotten upside down into some financial difficulties, but had also been approached by a very large strategic and said, Nate, I need some help. And I literally took his call after I had turkey dinner. I was on a plane that evening. I was in Colorado with Mark, and in 32 days, we had a deal fully signed and announced all the way. And part of that was working through a blizzard with the buyer and the seller in Colorado. It was a wild, wild ride, but we couldn't be more proud. Chaco to this day is a very successful division of Wolverine Worldwide. Everybody succeeded in that transaction. And that's really where we like to see things. We love to see founders get rewarded for their hard work, but we love to see buyers be able to succeed with their businesses too, because that way, that stewardship and the continuation of that is really honors the founders, and then also helps continue to deliver better product to the consumer. So that's probably the one of the toughest and most challenging and fastest deals we've ever done, but one of the most entertaining for sure.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That leads me to ask you, what's the standard start to finish? What's the open to close, or the start to, hey, we want to buy or sell? What is that length? I know what mine is. I tell people, 90 days, basically start to finish, is a round number that generally we can stick to. But I've got, like you said, a 30-day thing in my mind, and some that are a year. It's just crazy.
Yeah, well, it all depends. Before I give you the stock answer, I'll give you another extreme answer. And I don't mind citing this transaction too. We worked with Jonathan Blanchet, who was the founder of Revision Eyewear, the leading protective eyewear to the U.S. military. And when I first met Jonathan, gosh, this was now 20 years ago. But when we first got hired to ultimately sell his business, the day we started till the day we ultimately closed was almost 10 years. And it wasn't because that transaction went on for 10 years, but the reason we originally got hired was to sell the business. But then we had an acquisition opportunity, then we had a capital funding opportunity, then we had these different things over the 10-year relationship. All the while we were supposed to be able to sell the business, to bring the business and make it better and better. And then ultimately it was the tremendous success that it was. So not everything goes according to plan, but that's where we like to say we take that flexibility, and we really believe in the trust of the individuals in terms of who they are. Jonathan was fantastic to work for, his employees, the team. And ultimately, not only did we deliver success to him and the employees for the great work, but we delivered a better product for the warfighter, on and on and on. But to your point, a typical transaction is typically a 6-month endeavor. There's 2 months to prepare your materials, and think of that like cleaning up your house, putting on a fresh coat of paint, mowing the lawn so you present very well. 2 months of that is then bringing in buyers to your open house, marketing the business, and then another 2 months to ultimately close the transaction and sign all the legal documents. So 6 months is what you should think of on average.
That's great.
Yeah.
And right now with our commercial business, at least, so not the mill, Ellie Gov, but on the commercial side, which I refer to private owners selling to citizens, let's say in the United States, this might be a very good time. And I'm sure a lot of people, having ridden the wave of COVID and the massive sales, now want to sell, but unfortunately, their businesses are not worth that anymore. And I'm sure there are plenty of owners that have had enough. They've worked hard, they're tired, they want to sell. And I would say that if you're going to talk with someone, I have witnessed that your team and you know the industry. And that is really important, because you need to know that suppressors are like printing money right now, today.
Mm-hmm.
But tomorrow it could change. Tomorrow it could be something else. And to know what the longevity in the brand is worth is so important. And without knowing that niche, it would be very tough to evaluate, I would think.
No, you're absolutely right. Look, people love to correctly point out that at its core, a business's valuation, its worth, is a representation of the income stream, the return to the shareholders. But there's more to that at the end of the day. Products are really representations of a business and are something that goes into a customer's hands. And that builds a loyalty and a brand awareness and an aspiration in terms of what they want to do. And so that brand really means something at the end of the day. And unfortunately, sometimes that brand isn't as representative as it should be in different markets. Markets go up and down. So we really put a big emphasis on that storytelling, that differentiation in terms of why why X company versus Y company represents what they do and why they're just not a number or another, part of the Me Too in terms of who they are or what they are in terms of other products. Having that in-depth analysis and understanding both as a consumer and then someone as part of the industry is one of the reasons that we think we can do a really good job for our clients.
Yeah. And you guys also know when the local gatherings are all over the globe, because these gatherings, if you will, these events are all over the world. And there's certain times that they always happen. And I would assume that you are very regular in making sure that you have an ongoing list of buyers, just like a real estate agent, and set up those meetings. So if someone says, hey, I want to sell this company, you've already got your list in mind and you help them put it in a nice package and then get them choices, right? Ideally, people want choices.
You took the words right out of my mouth, and that's exactly right. Is that a lot of investment bankers love to run around and say, we're going to get you the best valuation or we're going to get you the best buyer. At the end of the day, our job is to give you choices because those choices can matter. Sometimes the highest buyer and the highest bidder may not be the right steward of your brand, or you may not share the same morals or view of the future. And you may want to go a different direction and take somebody who represents. And that's not my prerogative to choose that. My job is to give you those choices. And to your point, this is why we think we do the job that we do and that we're so proud of is that we live and breathe this day in and day out. We close a transaction now roughly every 6 weeks around the world in my sector. And because we're in the market so constantly like that, we're always aware of where buyers are and hence being able to give better choices and better options and well aware of all the dynamics so that we can best do our job. Because ultimately, when someone comes to us, that trust is so important for what they're doing. And we want to make sure that we do everything we can to honor that trust, even if it takes, like it did for Revision Eyewear, 10 years to be able to succeed.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate you doing this and being on this podcast. I really think this is going to be valuable to our listeners. I know it is for me because I've even learned things. I have never heard the example of real estate as a comparison. It's brilliant. Of course, it makes it all, everyone understands that. Most people have bought a house or will in their lifetime. And so that really does, that's a great explanation. And I'm sure your mother is still going to ask you to make change in first one.
Oh, she most certainly will, because she always asks why I didn't go down to the doctor route and actually help save lives. But I still like to think I've done some important things out there for our clients otherwise. Shaylene, really honored to be here. Great to see you. Thank you for this. And really excited to be part of this industry because, as you said, we're honored to be part of what really is a very strong community or strong family at the end of the day. And we're honored to be able to be helpful along that path. So great to see you. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, Nate. All right. Well, that's it for the HeadHunters Northwest podcast. We hope you enjoyed this. Let us know how you enjoyed this talk in the comments, wherever you're hearing this or watching it. And we'll be back next time. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HeadHunters Northwest podcast. Specialized recruiting, specialized approach. You can reach out at HeadHuntersNW.com or call 605-600-1709. Join us again next week as we look behind the curtain into the global defense, small arms, and shooting sectors. HeadHunters Northwest, finding you the best heads for business.